Hi, I'm Kevin Bulmer. You've probably seen some version of popular social media videos or articles that get passed around of people that get to the end of their days and they're reflecting back on their lives and talking to loved ones about how many regrets they have. They wish they'd done the things they really wanted to do or didn't do some of the things that they just felt they were supposed to, but really didn't feel in alignment with who they were. That they maybe left things unsaid that they wish they had expressed. They're looking back full of regrets, with no more time to really be able to do anything about it. Well, there's no reason for that to happen to the likes of you and me. And this is the kind of video designed to help. At the time I'm recording this video, I'm 43 years old. And what I've found is that my story is very similar to the stories of a lot of other people, and maybe very similar to yours. I found this through talking to people on my podcast, to all the people I meet when I'm out speaking, and just by changing what I'm paying attention to and living with more intention and really listening to other people and what their experiences are. Here's a version of that story. This is how I thought that you were supposed to do life. First of all, I figured that there was a way that you were supposed to do it, that I was supposed to do it. It went something like this. You're a good student. You don't fall out of line. I never got sent to the principal's office, not even once that I can remember. I was just deathly afraid of getting in trouble. So you're a good student. You got to get good marks so that you can get a good job. You can have security. Get out there in the working world and be respected, find a good partner, get married, have a couple of kids, buy a house, couple of cars, rise up on the ladder, squirrel a little bit away, do what they tell you to do, plan for your retirement, see if you can get to 65, and then relax and enjoy the rest of your life. Some version of that. And what I found is that I'm not the only one with that story. So you can filter this through your own experience as we go. Well, a couple of different things happen. It could be that you just are going along and arrive at a point where you realize you're asking yourself something like, isn't there something more to life than this? Or there's just this kind of emptiness or this hum of anxiety that feels like you've always got to get on to the next thing, or there must be something more, or that happiness and fulfillment is more a result or an event rather than just a way of being or a process. Or you could be in the camp that I'm in, where you go along really working hard, being responsible, sucking it up, staying in line, never let them see you sweat, be mentally tough, all of that kind of stuff. Be really resilient. And then everything falls apart on you anyway. And for me, that looked like divorce, business failing, ill health. I tell a lot more of that story in my speech, Rise Like a Phoenix, Rise Like a Turtle. And do you know what happens when I tell that story? Every single time, without fail, somebody comes up to me afterwards and wants to tell their story because it's a really common story. It's like life blows a hole through you. And all of a sudden you arrive, in my case, I was in my mid to late 30s, feeling like, okay, I've been around here for almost 4 decades, and everything that I really thought I was supposed to do just went away on me. It all just came crashing down like a house of cards. The scaffolding fell. Everything was in ruins. And I wondered, well, what the heck am I supposed to do now? I've had my chance at life and lost. I've blown it. That's how I felt. And I know that there are a lot of other people that feel like that too. Maybe that's you right now. Well, you can choose a couple of different paths if you ever arrive at that point, or even just at that point of dissatisfaction, of looking at your husband or your wife's eyes, or in your partner's eyes, or just in the eyes of the person in the mirror, and there's just this sort of dull despair of, is this all there is to life? Is this all I've got to look forward to? And I'm not trying to be a drag, but I'm betting you know what I mean if you're watching a video like this. So you've got a couple of different roads that you can choose if you arrive at either of those points. The first is that you can just go and keep doing the same things that you've always done. Think all the same things that you've always thought. Do all the same things that you always do. Nothing changes, which means nothing's going to change except for you're going to get older. And all of the things that are bothering you now are going to be bothering you 5 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, whatever the case. Or you can try to change, you can try to grow, you can try to learn, you can try to say, okay, things haven't gone the way that I thought that I wanted them to, but I can see that there are other people that are leading really happy lives. They have great relationships, they do what they love, they make great incomes, they have terrific experiences. If they can do that, why can't I? Well, if you're like me for a while, you think, well, maybe I can't. Maybe I'm broken. Maybe I'm one of the ones to which the universal laws don't apply. I'm the kid in the dark corner. It just wasn't meant to be. But if there are certain laws that are universal, that means they're universal. They apply to everyone. So maybe the light just hasn't gone on for us yet, or we haven't looked down the right path or followed the right model, one that's true to us. If you choose that path and you start paying attention to what some people are doing and you start feeding yourself with different material to try to empower yourself to move forward, then a couple of other things happen. Number one is the light goes on that you see, oh, there must be a way to do this, to really live with fulfillment because I can see that other people are doing it. But the other thing that happens is it can cause some frustration. This is what happened to me because you start hearing language like live with purpose and act out your passion and embrace your unique gifts and be who you uniquely are, who you really are. And that all sounds great and wonderful, but what if you don't know? I didn't. For years, I would listen to all of that talk. If you've got to be yourself and you've got to love yourself and you've got to be your unique, authentic self. And I'd say, great, sign me up. That sounds awesome. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to try to help you with that today and to help you get clear on from wherever you are in your life from now going forward, you can really tune into what matters most, not to your parents, not to your kids, not to your partner, not to your church, not to your school, not to your job, not to anybody else. They may benefit. In fact, as you become the best version of yourself, all of those people and more are going to benefit from you growing. But in order for you to do that, you've got to do this for one person. You. We need to get you clear on what matters most to you. So if you had any version of this script in your mind, like what I described a few moments ago, at any point going through your life of the way that you thought that life was supposed to be, one of the first things that we've got to do is tear that script in half and throw it out the window. Burn it, whatever you have to do. And accept that there is no script. We make it up in our minds. We literally manifest it. We choose. So if we think that there is a certain way, a map, a blueprint that we're supposed to follow, that's something that we have chosen to believe. Now, I know there's a lot of responsibility in that. A couple of other key things that we have to ask. One thing that we've got to accept and one big question that we have to embrace. Here's the thing that we've got to accept in order to move forward and to really get present and enjoy every moment. And it seems paradoxical and it's going to be a little heavy and maybe even a little bit blunt, but here it is. We're going to die. You are, I am, everything around us is going to change. Nothing lasts forever. Impermanence is a fundamental fact of life. We've got to accept that. What I found is that when I really faced that head on, it didn't depress me at all. It fueled me. Here's how. When you really think logically, you take the emotions out of it, and you look around at anything that you can think of, this physical body, this shirt, this building, relationships that we have, stuff that we own, possessions that we enjoy, our favorite car, any of those things, we realize none of them last forever. All of them change. People grow up and change and leave and get into different friendships and locations, geographies, jobs. New people are born, people die, seasons change. That's just the way life is. When we can accept that, what happens is, rather than that bringing darkness upon our experience, at least for me, what I did is I chose to look at the light. It brought me really present into really and truly embracing and appreciating every single moment that I had with whatever I was enjoying. So once I kind of got that through my mind, it had the reverse effect of being depressing or scary. I started really soaking every drop out of every moment that I was having. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect all the time. a long way from it. But I went from always having this anxiety, just this constant feeling, this raciness of whatever was going on, we needed to be getting on with something else. We hadn't achieved the result that we were looking to achieve yet. And went from that anxiety to just feeling really comfortable in my own skin and really grateful for any single second that I had with other people, for a beautiful day, for a not so beautiful day, but one that I'm living and breathing, the experiences that I was enjoying that were great. If they weren't great, why would I be enjoying it? They were even better. And the ones that weren't as good, I thought, well, like all the good stuff, the bad stuff is going to change as well. This too shall pass. So you can make impermanence work for you. But the first thing that we've got to accept is that we're not going to be here forever. The end is going to come. None of us know when that is, but we know for sure that it applies to you and to me and everybody else around us. So we've got to accept that first. Now, given that, accepting that, there's a big question that if you ask yourself and answer it honestly, will really help you get clear on what matters most to you from this point forward. Just a couple of moments, I'm going to show you exactly how I answered this question when I was at the lowest point of my life. And I'll tell you what happened, and I'll share with you some of the tools that I used to be able to move my life forward. But here's the question. Suppose that your life as it is right now doesn't really fundamentally change. You just get older. And all of the trappings and all of the natural things that go with getting older come with that. See if you can imagine yourself at the end of your life, whenever that happens to be. And in fact, you can imagine yourself or just evaluate from where you are right now and just look back on your life so far. But we're all going to get to the end someday. Now look back. What regrets are you going to have? What are you going to wish that you had had the courage to do, or not do, or say? Or what are the things that you wish you hadn't said? If you think about it in this context, it's going to help you going forward, because what you'll find is you won't dig yourself so many holes to climb out of going forward. Think about it. Imagine yourself at the end of this life. If nothing really from here onward fundamentally changes, look back. What are the regrets? What are going to be the things that you wish that you just had a little bit more time, that if you did, you'd go back and try? Even if you failed, that was okay. At least you tried and you had those stories to share. Or those things that were left unsaid that you could go back and say. Or the things that you had said that you wish that you could take back. What are those things? And again, as I've mentioned, you can do this from where you are right now. I did that, and I'm going to show it to you in just a second. When I was about 36, 37 years old, I thought about my life going forward and looking back, and I also thought about it from where I was right there, because I thought, here I've been around for almost 4 decades, and I've had my chance at life and blown it. That's how I thought. And I looked at my life, and I thought I worked really hard, and I did all the things that I thought I was supposed to do, and I'm filled with regret. But if I'm blessed with the opportunity to go forward, I'm not going to let that happen again. If I have the opportunity to get another 30 or 40 years, this time I'm going to look back and go, look at all the stuff I tried. I'm going to show you what the answers were for me when I first went through this exercise. See these chicken scratches? My penmanship isn't the best even at the best of times, but especially when I'm writing quickly, as I was at this point. So these notes that I'm holding and showing you right now, this is my handwriting in the pages that I've kept from words I wrote in early 2011. Just to give you a picture of what my life looked like at that time. I'd been married almost 12 years. My wife at the time got into a relationship with another man. I tried to keep the relationship, the marriage together for several months. Didn't work. We ended up separated and divorced. So I did this shortly after I was on my own, having left the house that I used to own and didn't call myself husband anymore. At the same time, a business that I had helped build from the ground up and had been working in for about 4 years, we scaled it back to the point where it didn't need the amount of people that we had working in it full time every single day, which was a really nice and more gentle way of saying I was out of a job and unemployed. I also was having some really serious health issues then. I didn't understand that the anxiety that I was piling on myself had really taken its toll. I was having horrible pain in my back, 3 herniated discs, pinched sciatic nerve on my left side. I was taking 2 different antidepressant medications to deal with that anxiety. Honestly, I was drinking pretty much every single night. I'd come home and I'd automatically reach for a Bud Light. The time I'm recording this, I'm not quite 2.5 years sober, but I kicked that habit. But at the time that I did this, I really was in a not so great spot. I felt like I had not just had my chance at life and blown it, but I was angry because I knew that I'd worked really hard to do all the things that I thought I was supposed to do, to really be responsible. And I didn't see what I was doing to myself, like with the anxiety and masking it with alcohol, but those are other things that we could explore at other times. So with this, these are the answers to that question that I asked myself. I said, never really mind getting to the end of your life, Kevin. Look at where you are right now. Was it a success or was it not? It was heartbreaking to answer because of how hard I knew that I'd worked. And I did ask myself, let's suppose that you just carry on as you are from this point forward. And nothing much changes, but you just get older. And look back. What are you going to regret? What would you change if you could? What matters most to you, Kevin? And I'm asking this for you as well. But to use myself as a bit of a guinea pig, your answers will be different, but I want to be transparent. Here are mine. This is what I said. Number 1, I didn't have a conscious, loving, passionate relationship with a woman who adored me. Number 2, I didn't have fun in my work. Number 3, I didn't fully share and express my creative gifts to their full potential. Number 4, I wasn't fully present and happy in every moment. Number 5, I didn't inspire and assist others in creating and finding a greater quality of life for them. Interesting that something like that would come up at a point when I was at my lowest, doesn't it? And then the 6th, I didn't earn the amount of money to match my potential, and I didn't have the money to do the things I wished to do and have all that I wish to have. Now, I actually, full disclosure, the money one I wrote here in the middle, but I numbered them at some point after that in terms of importance. And money was the last one. Funny how that works out. Because a lot of us think that if we just get an amount of money or a job or a relationship or a fancy car or house or whatever the case might be, then everything will be okay. I found out it doesn't work like that. The first thing that was on my list was I didn't have a conscious, loving, passionate relationship with a woman who adored me. Now, you could take that a couple of different ways. Was that just because I was off the heels of divorce? Well, I wasn't divorced yet, but separated and on my way to divorce. That's certainly a reasonable thing to assume. But this brings me to my next point, and the deeper question that I think that you're going to want to ask if you're going to go through an exercise like this, because it would be really easy to go, okay, I'm going to do what Kevin says to do. I'm going to imagine myself at the end of my life. Okay, I'm at the end of my life, and I'm looking back. Was it a success or was it not? No. Why was it? What am I going to regret? Okay, well, I'm going to regret that I didn't have that Ferrari to drive. Or I'm going to regret that I didn't get to take that Caribbean cruise that I always wanted to take. Or I regret that I didn't date 5 supermodels at once. So, okay, I'm talking about the things that really resonate with who you are, which we're going to get to in a moment to help give you another tool to identify that, and really line you up to live with fulfillment. How do we do that and know that what's on this list lines up with that? Well, there's one really important question that you can ask, and then ask again, and then ask again, and then ask again to peel through all those layers to find out whether you're really getting at the heart of the matter or not. And the question is, why? Why? Whenever you identify something that you're telling yourself that you want to have, ask yourself why. Here's what that'll do, if you're willing to be honest with yourself about the answers. If you keep asking yourself why and peeling those layers away and then asking why again and peeling that layer away and asking why again, what you'll find is that it's going to help you identify whether you're just picking something out of the ether, something external to try to fill some sort of hole inside of you, which if that worked, you wouldn't be in this spot to begin with, or whether you really have lined up something that resonates with who you are and the way that you want to be. So I'll give you an example. I'll use my own. I said I wanted to be here in a relationship, and you might say, well, you just told us that you were separated and you were headed for divorce. Yeah, that's true. What I didn't tell you is that in the period that I was trying to keep the marriage together, I went to counseling. I started to understand about communication, relationships, emotional intelligence. I learned a lot. And I also was looking around and actively paying attention to others that had the kind of relationship that I felt like I always wanted to have. And there again, back to where I was several moments ago, I could see that it was possible. So I wrote down for myself, one of the things I regret is that I didn't have the relationship that I really wanted to have. So that brings me back to, I asked myself, I'm just gonna put this down. I asked myself, why? Now, if your answer is, well, it would make me feel good if somebody else likes me. That's an external thing. That might feel good for a short little while, but those feelings, as we know, they fade. If it's, I'm embarrassed that I'm on my own and that my wife left me, and so if I can get into another relationship really quickly, then it's going to look as if I've still got my mojo. Well, I'm picturing the big X on the Family Feud board. You want to get really honest with yourself about why. So what was the why for me behind that goal? And again, I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm trying to share openly to help you through your own process. So for me, I know how good it made me feel to appreciate somebody else, to have somebody to share with, to have somebody that was always that person that was on the other end of the line when you had news that you wanted to share, somebody that you wanted to celebrate, that when it makes you, as it does for me, really feel good to think about all the things that you appreciate about this person and how you've learned from them and you're a better person as a result. And you notice different things, sights and sounds and smells and songs that remind you of that person. And it takes your whole experience and amplifies it because you're not looking for somebody else to validate you by telling you that, you're good or good looking or hardworking or all those things might be true, but that you've got two whole people coming together to celebrate each other, to create some new whole entire entity that didn't exist before. Now I'm getting kind of several levels beyond here of where I was, but I was peeling away the why and I thought, you know what? This does resonate with me. I do want to be the guy, and not everybody does, but that if I'm lucky enough to enjoy getting into older age, is walking along hand in hand with my partner. I want that for me. You might not want that for yourself, but I want somebody to share with, to celebrate with, to collaborate with, to argue with, to really live life with. That was important to me. I'll go back to the sheet that I had just to give one more example. I said I wasn't fully present and happy in every moment. Well, that was one of the reasons why I was drinking. I would feel like no matter what was going on, something else always needed to go on, and that happiness was a result. Like there was a period at the end of the sentence. There was a mountain that you could climb, and then once you would get to the top, then everything was okay. Well, it doesn't work like that. You're either growing or you're not. That's what I found out. And so the why for me with that one was that I wanted to, remember when I talked about impermanence, everything changes and eventually all of this is going to go away? I wanted to be able to really enjoy every single second while I was here because I knew if I was going to be honest with myself that I hadn't been. Even in the times when I was with the people that I loved the most, my mind was racing about all the things that I had to do. I can remember even just sitting at the dinner table and my mind racing about, okay, well, when we're done with this, we got to, get the dishes cleaned up, and then we've got to get the kids to bed, and then we've got to, it was just this constant spinning of your brain when I was doing something that I enjoyed, maybe being on a vacation or playing with my kids. I was dreading when that was going to be over and the work that I'd have to go and do, or when I was doing the work, I was dreading the next mistake that would happen, or the calamity, or the fire that I needed to put out, or it would seem so far off that I'd get back to when I was with my kids again or on the next vacation or relaxing, and then I'd finally get to that spot and I'd be in the state that I just described. It was awful. So I wanted to get present and engaged and really enjoy. And that was part of the why behind that. I mentioned some other things about expressing my creativity, and I knew that as a former radio guy and speaker and broadcaster, I knew I was capable of a lot more than I had done, but I was listening to those negative voices in my head telling me that I couldn't or shouldn't, or it was for other people but not for me. But in any event, what I encourage you to do is just, first of all, not overthink it. Ask yourself, let's suppose that this was it. This was the end today, and you're looking back on your life. What do you wish you could go back and change, try, do, be? And that if you were granted more runway from here on out, that you could do something about that and actually change it, what would those things be? What matters to you? Again, it doesn't matter what I think or what anybody else thinks. It's just you and me here. You don't have to share this with anybody. But what is it that matters to you? And then just don't overthink it. Just write down whatever you can. 5, 6, 10, 20, 100 things if you like. And then be patient with it. I did this exercise in 2011. Now, some things started to change almost immediately. A lot of things took years to kind of manifest. And so for me to say, well, I wanted to express my creativity, well, that's not very specific. It was 5 years after that fact that I started my podcast and started doing things like this video. So give yourself time. But as you write those things down, and then maybe leave it and then come back to it after a while, ask yourself why. Peel those layers away and see whether you're getting at something that's kind of external, that might just make you feel good temporarily, or something that really resonates with who you are. Now, as far as that's concerned, who you are. Here's another thing that I had never considered, but then when I finally looked at it and thought about it and wrote it down, it made all the difference in the world. Have a look at this. By the way, I should have mentioned that when you're going through the process of asking yourself, what are the things that are most important? What do you not want to regret? One of the best questions that you can ask yourself is, what did you most love to do when you were a school-age kid? Never mind if it was, playing with Star Wars figures in the bathtub. I would never do that. I'd never worry about, or don't worry about, whether the things that come to you sound like they could be income producers or have job potential or not. Just ask yourself about what it is that you used to love, that you were always curious about, that you like to ask other people about. Another thing that you can do is that you can go to the people that know you best and ask them what they think you're best at, or what comes to mind with them when they think of you. It's amazing what insights you'll get from other people. I wanted to throw that in there. Here now on this screen is something that was news to me not all that long ago. Values. I would get asked about what my values were. I don't know. I'm a good person, which I guess is a value. But I literally took a sheet like this, and you're going to have access to this worksheet as well, which is just designed to get you started, to just look at some of these words. And what I did was I took a sheet much like this and just went over it a few times and literally circled the ones that I thought sounded and looked like me. And then I distilled those down into a separate list and then chose the 5 or 6 that really I felt resonated the most with me. Now, they may be similar, or for you, they may be different. And this is by no means a definitive list. Google is your friend. You can find all sorts of examples of values or core values. If you just pump that into Google, all kinds of pages will come up. But here's something to get you started. And again, you're going to have access to this worksheet. What I would do if I were you is I would print this off, and I'd have a look at it, and I would circle the ones that spoke most to me. And the first time that I would go through it, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on it. I just really quick, something that said, yeah, okay, that sounds like me. Maybe that one not so much and doesn't really resonate with me, but this one, yeah, that one not so much. So for me, things like kindness, integrity, empathy, authenticity. Authenticity maybe came later, to be honest with you. But even just looking at this list, some of them don't really jump off the page at me, but other ones do. Love, leadership comes and goes, trust, yeah, understanding, vitality. I don't think I really knew what vitality meant when I was at the start of this. So go through this list. Circle, 10 to 20 of them that you feel
represent you, put them on a separate list and spend some time with it. Again, there's no clock on this, but it'll help you start to get clear on what you feel strongly about, who it is that you think that you are, what you stand for, what are the things that you are in alignment with, and what are the things that you're not. So this, once you start to get really clear on what are the things and the character traits that you value most, combined with the goals and the things that you've noted from the first questions that you've asked yourself, what are the things that you don't want to get to the end of your life and regret someday? Now you can start to put all that together and look at who you need to be in order to get to where you need to go. And that's what we're going to talk about next.
We've covered a lot of ground already. We've asked ourselves a pretty heavy question. What are we going to regret when we look back someday? If we don't change, if we don't do, if we don't say, if we don't not say, if we don't not do, what is it that matters to us? I've asked you to confront and accept the idea of impermanence, that none of us and none of this is going to be here forever. And that's not only okay, that's just the way it's supposed to be. And to use that to your advantage, to pull you into the present moment, to really celebrate every single opportunity that you have to live and enjoy and be engaged. We've just dived into really understanding who you are by looking at what your values are and drawing that into your awareness and getting you thinking about that and asking yourself, okay, well, who do I need to be in order to achieve these goals? This stuff that I put on the list of things that I don't want to regret someday that I didn't try or do. But it could seem like a really big leap between where we are now and where we want to be. And so that's why it's a really powerful question to ask, who do I need to be in order to get there? And what answering that is going to do is allow us to start to identify things that we can do or stop doing to move toward that. So that's what I would encourage you to do next. Just choose one thing. Just one thing, no matter how small. Baby steps count. They all add up. Just one thing that you can do to move forward related to something that you put on that list. And again, I'm going to encourage you to keep asking why, to really make sure that the things that they're on that list of things that matter most to you, so that when you have lived a great, full, healthy life, you look back and you think, wow, that was cool. Look at all this stuff that we did. You at least don't have the regrets. Remember to ask why to peel those layers away. But as far as where we are right now today, what's just one thing that you can do? Search something up on the internet. Take a book out of the library to deal with the subject that you want to learn about. Find somebody that you can talk to, that you can ask questions of. Just do something, no matter how small, that's a little bit different from what you're used to doing. Just barely past the edge of your comfort zone. Because I'm quite confident that what you're going to find is that if you can just inch forward a little bit, it'll feel uncomfortable. But you'll do that, and you'll look around and you'll say, wait a second, everything's still all right. I'm okay. And you feel empowered to inch forward just a little more. And the same thing happens. And the more you do that, and it starts out with baby steps, but then you start striding. And it takes however long it takes. Whether that's days, months, decades, but moving forward and growing is better than staying stuck and not growing and arriving at that point someday full of regrets. So just one thing. Brainstorm it. Doesn't matter how small. You've got a dream home in mind. Look at the real estate listings online. Or if you're feeling a little bit more emboldened, go to an open house. You don't have to buy anything. Just go look around. You get in the feel of it. Just one thing that you can do. And then once you've done that, one more thing. And then one more thing. Okay, so keep that in mind and brainstorm some things related to what's on your list. Let's go back to the screen for a moment.
This is a look at the worksheet that I've provided with this, which I encourage you to print off and use as a template to jot down your initial ideas. And you can copy it, you can print it as many times as you like, because you'll see that there's room here to take 5, and it doesn't need to be 5, it could be 1, could be 3, could be 153. But the things of what are those that you're determined to experience, the stuff that you don't want to look back and regret. You can note them here, and again, remember to ask why this matters to you. And I've only put one line just for space, but I would encourage you to go as deep as you can with that when you're evaluating what you put in the spaces 1 through 5, and again, however many you want, but ask why. Then going on to the next step that we've talked about, I showed you the core values sheet earlier. I've got 5 spots here, but again, I mean, you can easily double that up and write in on this sheet or create your own sheet, but jot them down. It's a powerful exercise when you identify something like that and actually write it out and look at it and and give it an opportunity to kind of settle in your consciousness a bit and resonate with what it is that you're thinking about all of this. Now, the other part that we've just been through, who do I need to be in order to achieve these things that I want to achieve? Habits that might need to change, beliefs that might need to be sort of re-scripted or rewired, relationships that might need attention, so that you can jot those things down in this space here. And then just what's a step? One step. And this is a brainstorming area. Now, I'm the kind of person that I'll get those lined sheets of paper and I'll go through 3 or 4 sheets and I'll put like 3 columns on each and I'll just bomb as many ideas out of my brain as I possibly can. But I didn't want to overwhelm you. We're all different. If you're like me in that respect, then you can go and do that. If something like this is a little bit more manageable, just jot the things down here. And why I like the boxes with the checks. This is something a friend of mine taught me years ago. He would keep notes of everything that would happen during the day in a notebook. So people that he was supposed to call and tasks that he wanted to complete. And he would always put a check beside them. And at that time, I would always put a line through the task to mark it as done. And I remember him saying to me, Kevin, don't ever put a line through it. Put a check beside it for 2 reasons. Number one, a check is more positive, but also it lets you go back and read what you did easily. So that if you're ever wondering, or if anybody ever questions, oh, you didn't call me back, or you didn't get this done, I can look back on my book and go, yeah, I did. I checked that right back here on March the 22nd. So it's kind of a double positive. But I've given you a couple of examples here of how simple you can make this. Let's suppose you want to learn more about money, or you want to learn about anything really. What's one thing that you can do right now, today, to move forward toward that a little bit? So for instance, you could go to the library and you take a book out about that subject, whether it's money or relationships or a skill that you want to learn or anything. Doesn't have to cost you any money. That's one thing. Then read the book. That's another thing. Then go to a local seminar. That's another thing. Then talk to somebody. That's another thing. So fill this list out, or as I've said, even maybe just start with one. And then when you've done that, give yourself a check mark and do one more. And then do one more. And then do one more. And as you do this, what you're going to find is you're going to create some forward momentum as you literally rewire and rescript how you think and feel about yourself by affirming and visualizing and acting, just sort of expanding your imagination and what you're capable of and tracking your progress along the way.
I know it can be a lot to think about, a lot to handle and try to plan and get your hands around. But if you just take it one step at a time, it'll start to crystallize. It'll unfold. Just stick with it. If you would like help with it, I've got video trainings available in my Turtle Tribe coaching community that shows how I come up with my whole annual playbook, basically my blueprint for life that I look at on an annual basis, that I drill down to monthly tasks, weekly, and even how I go about every single day. If you're already in the Turtle Tribe community, go and have a look for that now. If not, and you'd like to be a part of that, you can find all the information that you need at theturtletribe.com, theturtletribe.com, and we'd certainly love to have you in there, and I'll do my best to help you out on a day-to-day basis. I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope that you'll dig in at whatever pace feels comfortable to you. Just remember that none of this matters if you don't do anything about it. You've got to take some action. You've got to ask yourself the questions. You've got to make the notes. You've got to start looking around and change what you're paying attention to and what you're saying to yourself and what you believe about what's possible. Things can change. I know this for sure because I have lived it. And what I share in the Turtle Tribe community is my whole process of how I'm going from where I am now to where I want to go. So if you want to look in on and be a part of that, that's just maybe another thing that's fun about being in the community. But just, if you take nothing else away from this video, I just want to remind you that this is not a dress rehearsal, okay? We're in our lives, And once each minute, each hour, each day goes away, we can't ever get it back. I think a lot of us make the mistake of thinking that money is our most valuable resource. We can make more money. We can find more money. Money is just an idea that we represent with coins and paper and transactions and stuff like that. It's our time. Once we spend our time, we can't manufacture more of it. How do you want to spend your time? Ask yourself that, and hopefully I've given you some tools to help you get really clear on what matters most to you and to go out and experience more of that. I'm Kevin Bulmer. I want to thank you so much for watching and spending this time with me, and I wish you all the best. I hope to see you in another video, but either way, until next time, just be yourself and keep growing.